Thanks so much. Is everybody able to hear me? I will assume if you are able to hear Matt, then you're also able to hear me too. Um, but welcome. Thanks for coming today. I just want to let you know I have a very laid back style. Just to let you know, I am a firm believer that teachers are some of the most inventive, creative people in the world. And for in most instances, don't need a whole lot of prodding. If you're like me or like some of the folks on our staff here at St. John Ellisville, when they latch on to something that they like or that they see or that they know or that they find is useful, in some cases it's not a matter of me showing them what to do, but it's a matter. So kind of just to let you know, I don't know how many of you are used to using Google Earth. What I will have you do, I want to find out a little bit because it's going to help me to know a little bit more about where you'd like me to go. Um, Ultimately, what I would like to do, where my passion lies, is connecting what happens in your classroom to a technology tool. I feel technology tools are most best used in the context of what's going on in your class. Um, Using Google Earth in context is really kind of where I'd like to be able to go today. But before we do that, I'd really like to know what is your context with Google Earth? Are you, so there's a poll at the top. So on a scale of from 1 to 10, what is your use level of Google Earth? 1 being, I see someone popped up there. 1 being, I've never used it before. 10 being, I use it every day and I've used it with my students. So somewhere along the way. So 1 being, gosh, I've never used it before and I'm not really comfortable using it. 10 being, I use it all the time, love it, and used it part of my curriculum. So watching a horse race whenever you have the poll going, it's really kind of fun. Um, wow, pretty spread out. That's good. That's good. So whoever the 7 was, I will try very hard to hook you up with some new things. But what that means is that I might take some time, and I'll start my time. I'll really only want to take about 45 minutes to go through this today and leave some time for questions at the end. And also, please feel free to ask some questions as we go along. To let you know, what will happen is we're going to be leaving this window, or at least I'll be leaving this window. You'll still have the chat room open, so if you have questions or if you have conversation, I'm a big firm believer that if you are able to talk or to chat while something is going on, if you have a question, that I'm not the only smart person at all in the room. I believe we're all smarter together than we are individually. So maybe if you have a question, someone else can jump in and answer it more than I can. But just to let you know, when I go to share my desktop, I'm going to have to click back to see the chat window. So I, unfortunately, am going to lose the chat window, which is bad for me, but still good for you because you still get to use your chat window. So I may click back every once in a while to see if someone has a question. So if I don't answer your question right away, be patient with me. I'll go back and check on that. So as we're going through, I will go ahead since not a lot of folks have used it very much. Um, what I'll do is I will take some time just to do a brief overview to kind of give you a roadmap in terms of all the different pieces of Google Earth, and since really we're below 5 in terms of people, in terms of their use, I may take a little extra time that I wasn't planning on to kind of just show you around about how things work. But again, we're not really necessarily here to show you specifically how one piece of Google Earth works over something else, but to give you an overview of like, hey, this is how we've used it in the classroom. And I will let you, on your own, explore more because there's no way I can teach you everything about Google Earth in 30 minutes. So I'll give you an opportunity to explore some more. So um, if that sounds awesome, one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to share my desktop. I always, real quick with you, I always feel like I don't know. It's always hard when you're listening to someone just talk at you that you wish that you knew what they look like. So here, let me. I'm going to do a couple of things real quick. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and share Google Earth with you, and I'm also going to share something else. Um, so just to let you know, if you can see that this is me. This was taken yesterday, and it's, believe it or not, it's not even National Youth in Schools Week, but our girls and boys basketball teams are going to the state tournament, and we had a pep rally yesterday. So if you can picture me like this, and during that presentation, then that would be okay with me. Um, so we'll go from here. If you happen to have any questions that you want to start with, you're more than welcome to go ahead and start with those. But if not, I'm just going to jump right into Google Earth. This is kind of the title.
Okay, so it's sounding like we just lost Rob's audio. Rob, can you still hear us? Oh, we just lost Rob out of the meeting. Okay, so apparently he just got disconnected, so hopefully he will connect back up with us in just a moment, and we'll be able to continue here. Just to check, you can all hear me okay still? All right, great. So we'll look for Rob's return here shortly. All right, it looks like Rob, I think, is rejoining us here. Uh, Rob, we lost audio and then we lost all of you. So, um, if you want to try sending your audio here, we'll see if we have more success this time.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you
Are you?
now.
Whoa, cool. I hope I didn't press something. Hopefully I wasn't out for too long.
You were out
Yikes.
for we about immediately when you switched to the screen share, we lost your audio. We saw your picture and then that was about it.
Oh, bummer. Okay. All right. I'm in Google Earth now. Can y'all see Google Earth? All right. All right, we're in. Okay. I always like to start with this one when we're looking at Google Earth, and it's like I always ask kids, I say, so what are you looking at? I think what Google Earth does is it really gives us a sense of perspective. I mean, you're looking at the United States, but you're looking at it upside down, which I think is one of the really cool things about Google Earth is it really helps us understand a little bit about perspective. And besides the fact you're like, wow, God gave us a really cool place to live. And it gives us a chance to explore that a little bit more. So the big globe in the middle, on the right-hand side, starting at the top, allows you to rotate and pan and tilt the Earth as you see fit. The next one below there is kind of like a joystick that allows you to rotate the Earth in any specific direction. Now recognize there's a little hand right there in the middle that you'll be able to see. That little hand is here too, so you can also just click and drag Google Earth around. And again, too, if you know this already, sorry, just want to be able to get everybody on the same page. And to the right-hand side is the zoom in and the zoom out button. I believe the closest you can get to any one location is within 100 meters and still be able to see a relatively decent picture. So I have no idea where I've zoomed in at. And kind of the cool thing is to guess where it's at. The more I zoom out, you'll have a better understanding of where that is. Um, but the zoom in and the zoom out feature, the clarity of the image has to do with the satellite that had taken that image that makes up that piece. Like for example, here you notice in the very middle that there's a brown swatch, and you're wondering why is that separate? Why is that different than the other land around it? It's because that image, that swath of an image, was taken from a satellite. And here was an interesting I didn't realize that most of those satellites that you see actually travel north to south over our world and not east to west. That are satellites, which I didn't realize. So most of the strips that you'll see tend to go north south. So let's see. Still looking over on the right hand side are our navigation pieces. Now over on the left-hand side, there are three types of windows. There's our search pane that will allow us to search and to fly to anywhere. Within inside of here, you do have the Find Directions button. So you have Google Maps functionality of finding directions and driving directions to places. You can also find a business. And since this is Google Earth, all this stuff is powered by Google. So you're getting but the best one is the Fly To button, the Fly To menu. And of course, when you're with a group of students, anyone want to chat in the window, what's the first thing they want to do when they get inside of Google Earth? I wish I had a door prize for the first person who could type it in. The very first thing most every student wants to do when they get inside of Google Earth is, wish I had a drum roll. Yep. You're right, Dan. Find their house. So yeah, I figured, if you just want to, then here's my house. So if you want to know where I live, this is me, and hopefully this will help you have a little context of where I am and who I am and where I'm from in Missouri. So yeah, that's my house, right there. Our cul-de-sac, which is a great place for our girls to be. So at the very top, there's our fly to, where you can put in any address. How specific do you have to be? You could, for example, put in the Great Pyramids. It would give you an opportunity, and it will likely recognize that. Although you notice right underneath the fly to menu, it gave me some options. When I type in Great Pyramids, it's like, let's see. I don't know why I got Trailhead Brewing Company, Boad Farms, Cahokia Mountain State Historical Park. That didn't exactly give me what I was hoping and what I would need. So usually when you're working with students and you're trying to find a place to fly to, it really does work out really well. You want to try to be as specific as possible. Right below my fly to, or below my search button, and you'll notice I have a small arrow there. I can minimize that and close it, which will be helpful for today. Right below the search is the place area we call places. This is where you have what are called place marks, or if you're used to just a plain old two-dimensional map that you have up on your classroom, we used to put push pins in. That's in essence what a place mark is. It's just a Oh, they're really cool push pins. But this is where you'll have all of your push pins per se, or your place marks. This is the places area, and when you download content that shows inside of Google Earth that you have added, either you have added or you have downloaded, this is where it'll appear. And I'll show you all the different pieces here on the left-hand side in just a moment. Below the Places tab is what's called our Layers tab, and I'm able to make that larger just by clicking in between. Google has worked with and has collaborated with a ton of different data pieces. We actually will spend our time today not going through these different areas, but by looking at some lesson examples that were actually built by myself or built by other teachers or built by other individuals. But you literally could spend all day going through these different pieces. In the newest version of Google, in Google Earth, they did add Google Ocean. So it is possible to go underneath the water of the ocean and see the terrain from there. We'll take a look at that maybe near the but would just encourage you to click through. So, for example, on the geographic web, they do have linked articles in Wikipedia, images from the image sharing site Panoramio, and clicking on local businesses. You can show roads, specific roads, 3D buildings. You can look inside of Google Street View. If you're familiar in Google Maps with Google Street View, Google drove around with a car and was basically taking three-dimensional images of all those different pieces. So I'll let you explore that on your own. And another one that you'll be most helpful with is the borders and labels. So you get it by choosing that. You can zoom out, and now I'm able to see counties. I'm also able to see states. And wanted to. I've not found a use for traffic yet, but I'm sure if you wanted to find real-time traffic, you could. Also, same thing with weather. Underneath Gallery is where Google has partnered with other websites or other organizations to add their data and to have it show over the top of Google Earth. One of the cool things about layers is that when you're looking at the layers pieces, what you're doing is you're seeing individual content from another provider, and they're just viewing that on top of Google Earth. So imagine all of these layers, just like the old transparencies they used to put on top of each other when you had the overhead. So think of your layers like transparencies that you can layer on top of your map of what you already have going. So yeah, exactly. Good job, Matt, in traffic and advanced math. So awesome. We'll keep moving. And again, we really could spend all day here showing these different pieces, but I would digress way too much, so we'll go ahead and move on. So I've minimized my layers button at the bottom by clicking the arrow. You'll see that. I've also minimized my search button. And what I really want to do is to take you across the top and show you just a couple of really quick tools. To add a place mark inside of Google Earth, all I have to do across the top is I have a place mark button. So it says add a place mark. Also inside of here, there's a little bit of redundancy, just like with everything else. So I can add a place mark by clicking the place mark button, or I can go up to add, and I'm able. So just real quick, just so you have an opportunity to see, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add a place mark. What it does is it brings up my placemark box where I can label this individually. And I also have the ability to move my placemark around. Now the awesome thing about this is, as you notice, as I move my placemark, it automatically changes my latitude and longitude. So what this does is it allows you to be very, very specific. Just to help us out here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click cancel. I'm going to go to search. I'm going to, since I'm in the greater St. Louis area, I'm going to play home favorites. And I'm just going to go to the St. Louis. So that'll give me an opportunity to zoom in. Anybody would like a different example, you're more than welcome to do that. But one of the cool things you'll notice is that the layer, I do have one layer that is turned on, and I have the 3D buildings layer turned on. It's under my layers, so you'll be able to see that. Let me just take a second and kind of zoom in, and here's kind of where some of the wow factor happens inside of Google Earth. Is I am able to rotate and zoom in to be able to three-dimensional content inside of here. Google is absolutely brilliant by giving out Google SketchUp, which is a 3D builder program, 3D building program that they allow you to make your house, or they allow you to make any building, and they allow you to store that on their server, effectively building up for their library, their storehouse, which is pretty cool. While we're here and we're in St. Louis, I grew up in Denver, Colorado, but I unfortunately, or fortunately, I'm a Cardinals fan. I fully converted now. Just to show you a couple of new tools that were added in the latest version of Google, I'm going to go ahead and untilt myself here. Go over Busch Stadium, and we do have a new stadium as of a couple of years ago. I'm going to go ahead and turn 3D buildings off so you just see two-dimensional. Another new feature that was added was the historical button. So the clock at the very top right next to the sunrise, by clicking that, it does bring up a bar at the top, so I'm now able to go back and look at historical images of that exact area. So I'm going to zoom out just a little bit, and you'll actually be able to notice by clicking backwards in images. I'm now seeing from April 2008, 2007, and like I said before, you'll notice that some of the image resolution has changed based on the satellite that takes that image that they've gotten from there. But I'm able to see and to go backwards about what time, about what year, and about what date the new stadium had appeared. So let me kind of zoom back, and there we go. So that was the original Busch Stadium, or not original, there was park, but one of the Busch Stadium downtown. So I'm able to kind of click up and see at what point. Now I can see from this image that they're starting to build the new stadium right next to the old one. And I'm assuming that you can probably think significantly about how you could use a piece like this in your community with your students, on how this would be an advantage to you. A lot of schools, like for example, we had added a new about 3 years ago, and it took Google a long time, to get an updated satellite image. That's not necessarily their fault, but they just didn't have an updated satellite image of our new building. So it is kind of cool to go back, and if you've had new buildings, talking from a historical perspective, we can go back and take a look and see 5 years ago, 10 years ago. So you have that ability as well. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the historical piece off. I started to talk about placemarks when I got a little sidetracked at the bars across the top. So I'm going to go ahead and add a placemark, and I'm going to put it on side in here on the St. Louis Arch. Across the top, I'm going to go ahead and label this with the St. Louis as a St. Louis. And this is where most of the magic happens inside of Google Earth, with your ability to create content. I think that's one of the best things, is you're able to create content and allow that content to work with your students. To give you some idea, I did create a place mark, and if you remember back at the start, I said on the left-hand side here under Places, this is where the content that I make, or the content that I download off a website, gets to be stored. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to minimize my search bar so you get better. My Places is kind of like the root. It's kind of like my documents, my pictures. It's my Places. This is where all I have the different things that I make. So for example, down below, you can see there's my St. Louis Arch place. And via the lines, I can tell that this St. Louis Arch placemark is inside of my 21st CLE Google Earth. You are are free to move any of these place marks to any location that you would have. One of the biggest things that I've noticed when working with students is really hard for them. Students have a hard time understanding the concept of moving different folders around and putting things inside of folders to organize them. So just that may be a piece that you may recognize as you work with students inside of Google Earth is, how do I save this content and how do I organize this content in a manageable way? So what I have done at the very top, and you'll be able to see, as the plus sign on the left-hand side lets me know that there's content inside of that folder. So for example, here's a language arts folder. Inside of that folder is what we call a file. The little earth here lets me know that this is what's called a KMZ file, is a group of place marks that have been made, and they've been compressed so that they're easier to transfer across the internet. An individual place mark is called a KML file, which stands for Keyhole Markup Language. Whenever you see KML or KMZ, whenever you see those acronyms or those file types, that means that file you're able to interact with that and use that inside. Sorry, I just checked back in the chat with the historical images using the Twin Towers. That would definitely be a piece that I have not done that yet, but that's a really good idea. After I get done, I'm going to do that. So here's, we're back in the St. Louis Arch. The St. Louis Arch right now, the place mark that I had made is inside of my temporary folders. I am able to move that around. So for example, if I wanted to make a new folder that I wanted to put content in, it's just like anything else. If I want to put a folder inside of my places, I can go up to add. I'm going to select my places. I'm going to go to add and add a folder. So I'm going to add a folder. I'm going to call this practice. Below, I could write a description in there of what is going to be in this one. Okay. Now I have my practice folder, so I could take my St. Louis Arch place mark and put it inside of my folder. So hopefully that kind of gives you an idea about how we can move content around. So that may, for those of you who are new to Google, this is the really fun thing about it, is the ability for you to generate your own content inside of here. So the awesome thing about Placemarks is not only that you get to generate it, but you get to choose how you interact with it and what it looks like. I'm going to go ahead and click on my St. Louis Arch Placemark again. This time I'm going to single right click on it, and I'm going to go back to its properties. But also take a look at all the other things I'm able to do with it. I'm able to, the cool thing about this, I could email this to somebody else. I can share it in a post in the Google Earth community, or I can save the place for later. Usually what I'll do is, if I'm working with a group of kids, I'll actually save my place marks, and then I can upload them to a website. I can upload them to a wiki so that they can download them home. They are able to make place marks and use those and download those and put those wherever they'd like to have them too. So it's they're very portable. So I'm going to go, but first I want to go to the properties of this place mark that I had just made. And what that does is that allows me to get back to my editing my place mark feature. Over on the right hand side, I am able to choose what my place mark looks like. I can even add a custom icon. I know that there is an English teacher who would actually put place marks at famous where William Shakespeare had done, and she had uploaded a small image of William Shakespeare's head, so all her place marks were Shakespeare. Inside of the description box, to give you some idea, you can, by typing inside of here, what will happen, let me just give you a shot here. To westward. Okay. When I click on the St. Louis Arch, what it does is it pops up a dialog box, and now I'm able to see what is put in. And I'm able to put a whole bunch of neat stuff inside of here. Not only can I put text inside of here, but I can upload a whole bunch of other stuff. So for example, by going back to properties, I could switch out now. I'll double check back to make sure no audio changes, but let me go to a web browser here, and let me go to YouTube. inside of YouTube. Are you able to see that I'm at YouTube real quick? Someone could just chat in the what I'm going to do is I'm going to find a video about the St. Louis Arch. So what I'm going to do is I'm just real quick going to pause this. And did anybody else notice, by the way, that YouTube changed their look and their format? Down here is the embed button. I love embed code. Embed code is the most awesome thing on the face of the earth. It allows you to take content from one place and show it somewhere else. The cool thing, here's my embed code for my video. What I want to do is I want to take this video and I want to put it inside of the Placemark, so that when I open the Placemark, I'll get a chance to see the YouTube video. So I'm going to show the border. I do not want to include related videos, so I'm going to leave that by a 364 pixel box. So here's the code at the top. All I'm going to do is single right click copy, and now I can go back to Google Earth, and I'm just going to paste, single right click, paste all that stuff in there. And that looks really horrible. It's embed code, and I don't know all what it is, nor at this point do I care. All I know is that when I click the OK button, and then I click on my St. Louis Arch Placemark, my video is going to show inside of there. Now imagine what you could do in terms of working with students. You put together, for example, you could very easily now, do a geographical kind of like PowerPoint. You could put content inside of these things, and now you have your own virtual field trip for students. And anytime there's any video or there's any media, you could put that media directly inside of these Placemarks. So it's all very self-directing. Oh, couldn't see. Are you able to see Google Earth, and are you able to see that the Arch video is inside of the Placemark? If someone could chat in the window? Okay, good deal. All right, so by clicking play, now all that stuff plays right inside of my window. That by far is one of the neater features of the Placemarks. Now, here's a real quick caveat when it comes with the Placemarks. For those of you who are, we call web heads, or who know how to program HTML, HTML is hypertext markup. You've probably heard it before. All HTML tags work inside of the Placemarks. If you don't know how to use HTML inside of your Placemarks, you may be a little bit limited in how you can format or how you want your Placemark to look. So thanks be that someone else was smarter than me and basically said, oh, you do not have to know HTML to be able to format HTML. So real quick, I'm just going to cancel this real quick. At the very top, inside of my presentation folder, there's a button called Helpful Tools. And after we get done, I've got a link to where you can download these files, and you can do that. It's called the WYSIWYG HTML editor, which is absolutely fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. I am going to kind of stop here just a little bit, and I'm going to ask if you're able to see the HTML editor. So is everyone able to see editor when I've got it pulled up? If I can share it, let me try it again. How about now? Able to see it now? Okay, good. So it may just be taking a second to draw. This is by far one of the coolest tools that I've found. Is what it does is it allows you just to create text, to put media on, to put images on, to put in hyperlinks, to insert tables, to format just like you would, for example, in Microsoft Word or. So here, and what I can do is I can say museum. So I can format my text. If I wanted to, I could even add an image inside of this. And here's the best part. Here's the button that I love the most. It's the Convert to HTML button. And it's the Convert to HTML button. And what it does is it takes all of my stuff that I had and allows me to copy and paste that directly into. I've got some residuals left over from when I had. I'm going to go back to my St. Louis Arch button. I'm going to single right click on it. I'm going to go back to properties. And here I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste. Be able to see that text as I wanted it in terms of font size, font color, that all stayed. So even if you don't know HTML, there are tools available to you that allow you to edit text, to format text, to put those directly inside of your description box, Placemarks. And you don't have to know HTML. All you have to do is know how to press a button that says toggle to HTML, and then you just copy and paste all the HTML tags in the code, and you don't ever have to know what they do. All you have to know is that when I copy and paste them and I put them there, everything just happy. And I realize that may sound kind of simplistic, but really that's I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing that window now, and we'll kind of get back to Google Earth. Were you all able to see Google Earth when I copied and pasted that in and was able to show the text? You can just put that in the window, let me know. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing the WYSIWYG editor for right now, and I'll come back to it. Sorry, Marissa, it sounds like we're just having a little bit of a lag, so hopefully when the recording comes out, we can go back. Okay, well, let me go and try that again. I'm going to stop sharing that one window. Back to sharing Google Earth. Is everyone able to see inside of Google Earth again? Okay, let me go ahead and share. Stop sharing, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to share Google Earth again with you. Back to Google Earth, hopefully. Without waiting too much longer, I'll kind of keep going. So I've got Google Earth. I can put these place marks, or I can put these push pins on any geographic location I want. Now the question is, what do I do with that ability? I can embed video from YouTube, or now by the way, it's not just YouTube. It's from TeacherTube, from SchoolTube, from Vimeo. It's from any website that has embed code. I can put that in here. If you have working websites like Blabberize or Wallwisher or Logster or VoiceThread, literally any website that gives you embed code, you can copy and paste that inside of these place marks, and that content will appear, which is a really neat functional piece. Back. Okay, good. So just to kind of give you an idea, we've covered so far is we put a place mark on. I've labeled this one St. Louis Arch. We put content inside of that place mark, and I add that content again by single right clicking on the place mark and going to properties, and that brings up my ability to add things in the description box. And remember, whatever I put in the description box will appear in my place mark when I click on my place mark. So there we are at that time of those different pieces. But say for example, how would I use this in a real practical way? Over on the left-hand side here, under my places, there are a couple of in my folder, my religion examples folder, I put in a couple of different websites that you can click and go to. I'm gonna add a piece of content that I've saved in a folder locally. In essence, I'm just gonna open these place marks that I got from these websites. So just to save us some time, since I was having problems sharing my screen, going to a website and not showing the website, I'll let you click on those from my website that we've got at the very beginning of my wiki page. But without going to those websites, I'm just going to show some different content that are there. But like, what could you do, for example, with this? So I'm going to go to File, Open, and I have a couple of folders here I want to open. And there is actually a very huge folder that is called the Bible. And what it does is this gentleman, or whoever the person was, basically had added all the different locations that were mentioned in the Bible. Now, this looks very confusing. That's because there are just a ton of them. But for example, I can zoom in, and you obviously notice in Israel there are, but by zooming in, I can get a little bit closer. So, for example, by clicking in here, just as a matter of Parathon, I click on Parathon, and what it does is it brings up and shows you all the different places where that city is mentioned in the Bible, and it also has those as hyperlinks. So if I clicked on those, it would go to a website and open up that scripture from there. So this is a really neat way to tell a Bible story. The visual piece for students to give them an opportunity to see, okay, that name in our Bible story is not just a name of a place that I can't pronounce. I always have a hard time pronouncing those too in class. But this is not just a fictional place. It actually had a location, and this was its location that we believe. So that is a really neat connecting piece with our students. I found these off of a website. On the left-hand side again, under religion examples, I have two hyperlinks. One is from Dale Whitty. He had done a presentation. The website is from a presentation that he had done, and he, at the very top of his page, he has hyperlinks to a whole bunch of different places. So I'm going to go ahead, and you'll notice that when I opened it, down here at the bottom under temporary places, see where it says all Bible places? If I unclick that, they all go away. That's because I've told Google Earth, I don't want you to show those files. But if I click it again, now everything appears. On the left-hand side, you'll also notice that there's a little plus sign next to the all Bible places. When I click on it, it now opens that file, and there they all are. So if I really wanted to, I could look individually at all those different places, but I would be here for a long time scrolling through trying to find all the individual Bible places. So for right now, I'm just going to not show Bible places. And actually what I can do, since we were talking before about moving files, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take my all Bible places and I'm going to put it. I can see that all Bible places is underneath my religion example, now inside of there. Okay, if that helps to make sense. So that would be a Bible example. There are a couple of different, a couple more inside of the openbible.info under the at the geocoding piece that's there. They actually have a Google Earth in terms of place by chapter and by book of the Bible, and it allows you to explore the Bible by geographic location as well, not just by place. Those are all inside of that as well, and the link is there. So I will let you explore that on your own as you go through. So just a real quick example. One example of using it in religion class allows you to tie place to what you're doing in religion. Another example I can real quick pull up is I don't know, depending on the age of your kids, being able to see Paul's missionary journeys. So what I did is I just opened a file that chronicled Paul's missionary journeys. So, for example, this one happens to have the individual place marks that you see below, and next to it, it has the references to those in the book of Acts. So here you have, so when you're going through the book of Acts with your kids, that you have those opportunities there available, that you can connect Salamis or Cyprus or Perga, Iconium. Now kids get a chance to see this was a real place. This just wasn't just a name. The ability for us to connect place with students is very powerful, especially in the area of social studies and science. So religion examples. Anyone have any questions in terms of religion? Go and type them in, and I'll try to get back to them at the end. But I'm going to go ahead and move on. Science is another really neat venue or a neat piece that we can look at with these. Here are two websites that I would like to show you. The first one is the United States Geological Survey, or the USGS. I'm going to try to go ahead and open this and share this with you. I think this is probably a very neat piece. So I'm going to click on that and I'm going to go. Just give me a second here. I'm going to attempt to go ahead and share this with you. Hopefully, if you can just give a yay or a nay, inside of the room just to let me know whether or not you can USGS, the USGS website. I'm just going to kind of move on in the meantime. The United States Geological Survey, they keep very extensive earthquake data. So as I scroll down on the left-hand side under hazards, I can look at all the world's most recent earthquake data. Now the awesome thing about this is it allows me to download their earthquake data inside KML file, a keyhole markup language file, which are those Placemark Google Earth files. So on the left-hand side under present, it says KML RSS feeds and data. I click on that, and what it does is it allows me, there is a link here for a Google Earth KMZ or KML file. And by the way, the difference between KML and a KMZ file, Google Earth Placemarks are KML, keyhole markup language files. If you zip it or you compress it, so it's easier to manage on the web for uploading and downloading, that's the difference. KML and KMZ, they're the same types of files, but what they do is they allow you, one is more portable than another. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and download this one. What I'm going to open inside of Google Earth is the past 7 days worth of earthquake data. So what you're seeing is actual earthquake data from the USGS, and as I zoom in, you can obviously see everything is spot in the yellow was an earthquake from the past week. Orange is from the past day, and red is from the past hour. So you could go ahead and see as I scroll around the world. They even show you plate boundaries. So I could go around and say, hey, where was there an earthquake today? Or I could say, where was there an earthquake last week? They do have historical data, so you are able to take a look at this. And the awesome thing about this type of data is it generates it really quickly. About 2 years ago, we had an earthquake around the St. Louis area, which we never experienced. That was my first earthquake. Within a matter of 30 minutes, when I went to the USGS website, I was able to download the KML file that had all of our earthquake data in it. And I was like, that is very significant to be able to and even within a matter of minutes or in a matter of hours have that data automatically there that my students can look at, and we can begin to analyze that and then compare it to other data. And the really cool thing about this too is I can say, okay, here's St. Louis, Missouri. How far away are we from this earthquake in Arkansas? One of the cool tools at the very top is a measuring tool. There's a picture of a ruler at the top. So what I do is I can click on Show Ruler. It pops up a box. Now what I can do is by clicking, I can draw and I can measure distance inside of Google Earth. So we're about 191 miles away from St. Louis, from where that latest earthquake was. And if I click on, and if I clear that, let me go ahead and close my ruler. Now I can click on, it was a magnitude 1.1, so we most likely wouldn't have felt it here. But what it does is it really gives you an opportunity now to show distance in terms of relationships. The really awesome thing about this is when I do that, I can go ahead and show that. But notice I have a drop-down menu, and look at all the different ways I can do this. I can go ahead and I can show the distance in centimeters. If you have more advanced math students, now you can use data like this, like how many centimeters it is, to do scientific notation, depending on distances and location that way. So older kids, you're there. So go ahead and clear that out. So in terms of science, websites like the National Geological Survey allow you to download content off of their websites that give you an opportunity to interact with their live data. I think one of the things we need to work with, teach kids is how do you interact with data? There's so much data that we have, bombarded with. How do I interact with it on a daily basis? So Google Earth allows us to interact with that data, which is really cool. Another thing to give another classroom idea link I have here is a 5th grade biome project. Our fifth graders at St. John were learning about biomes. So what we had done, I'm going to see if I can go ahead and share this with you one more time. Project on it. Hopefully, if you just give me just. The cool thing is we had we have a parent who works for Merritt's Travel. So we were talking with our kids about, different biomes. So we gave the students, and as kind of a culminating project to this, we had given them a task that said, hey, we want you to learn, we want to find out what you learned about biomes. So, Mrs. Brewer, who works for Merritt's, they're putting together biome vacation packages. There are some people who, want to experience the taiga and they want to experience a tropical rainforest. So what we had students do is we had them do research. So for example, here's the deciduous forest. We had students do research about those different areas. And what they did is they were actually encouraged to go back and create placemarks, but inside of those placemarks, they had to put information about that biome. I'm going to switch back to Google Earth here just real quick. So I'm going to stop sharing my other one. And I'll Earth. One of the things you'll probably notice on the left-hand side is when I started opening Placemarks, that gets pretty messy. So just to give you some context of where we're at, under temporary places, that's where all those Google Earth files are going to. Here was all my Paul's first missionary trip data. If I click the plus sign, there's all those individual placemarks. Here is the USGS real-time earthquake data that's right below here, and those are all the different pieces that showed there. Here is the file that I just opened, the Kisatchie National Forest one. So I'm going to go ahead and double-click on that placemark. Now, what we had students do is inside of their placemarks, we had students put in a picture. But what we had them do is inside of their placemark. Don't see Google View, lost the Earth, lost the view. Okay, just a second. Let me stop sharing and re-add that again. We got you right here. This is one of the hazards of trying to share your desktop all at the same time and trying to share those different things. Hey, thank you for being patient. I appreciate it. Here we go. So here's a placemark. Now, if I wanted students to travel agency that a visit to this location on the Earth's surface would help their traveler understand, in this case, what forest is. What kind of content would you want in there? And that's the question we asked our students. So students built placemarks and to put together tours about their biome. So for example, Ms. Brewer, who works for Merritt, said, we want to provide vacation packages for people who are in biomes. So for example, we'd like for you to put together a tour package of, what is to experience the taiga, what does that mean? And inside of the Google Earth placemarks, we had students put pictures. Hooray, I like you, Ingrid, thanks for saying hooray. So that's another example. So giving students the option to put content, helping them to display what they've learned or help them to display what they've known in a unique way that connects with them. And again, here you're connecting the idea of place, especially in terms of teaching geography. And our world, as Thomas Friedman said, is kind of flat, which means we're all in the same plane. In terms of different places with different people. Helping students get to see places. Notice I say that a lot and it keeps coming up. Google Earth really allows for that. So just real quick, that was a real quick science connection. So that the two quick science connections we had, the connecting with the USGS survey, so that there is content that people provide on the web that you can download. There's data available, and finding those different places are there. And then the secondly was student-generated content using the Kisatchie National Forest, the biome project. Next, real quick, I'm going to move down to math. So, for example, how could you use Google Earth? How could you use Google Earth in math? Here's a real quick way. Our students were talking about lines and angles. So, what our sixth grade math teacher had done. Let me go ahead and zoom out here. If you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take off all of my USGS earthquake data, and I'll take off here. But what what our math teacher had done is he had asked the kids, he said, okay, where are these in real life? Where do you see things like obtuse angles? Where do you see right angles? Where do you see perpendicular lines, oblique lines? So what he had our students do is, let me go ahead and pull one up here. I believe it's close to the city of New York. What he had students do is find out, hey, in a city, where do you find these things? So, for example, and here's an obtuse. Here's our acute angle, and here's our right angle, our parallel lines, and so the really cool thing is when our students put these place marks on. I mean, I think I'm gonna have to zoom in to see. But as you add these place marks, students now can add descriptions. So for example, this is an obtuse angle, so I can add a place mark here, and I'll say, below there in the description box, man, what could I have students put in here? A definition of what an obtuse angle is, examples of obtuse angles, more images of obtuse angles, a video that they created about an obtuse angle. So there's a lot of different content that students can put inside. Real neat, easy way to test students without having them take a test. How would your students react if they learned how to use Google? Obtuse angles. It's like, wow, that's a real engaging piece that my students have to deal with now. So above, we talked a little bit about religion examples. There was a science, there was a social studies one, just did a math one. For some more advanced students, this one was something I downloaded. This is a geometric shapes file. On the Earth, since they had added, like, wow, I wonder if I could measure three-dimensional buildings. You can't really measure using the ruler tool three-dimensional buildings outside of Google Earth, but they try. So for example, this is an example of something measuring geometric solids. So I'm going to go ahead and open a place mark here. This one happens to be the head building in Nice, France. So I'm going to click on it, it's going to zoom in, and I'm going to make sure that I have my... And the building that you're looking at is an actual building in France. It's called the head building. So by clicking on it, the teacher... This is the actual information from the head building itself. But when I click on, there we go. There's the actual place mark itself. When I click on the place mark, the teacher has asked the students, assume that the building is a cube with sides measuring 13 meters. Find the volume and surface of the bottom cube face on your calculation. So for example, here you have students interacting with content. That's a real life piece of content. You're looking at a 3D model of it, but now students are actively engaging in the context of something. It's not just, hey, find the volume and surface area of this cube in my textbook. I'm now finding the volume and surface area thing, which is pretty cool. And below, and here, for example, is the World Trade Center site, or the Great Pyramids of Giza. So I click on the Great Pyramid. Use the following dimensions to find the volume of the pyramid. So square the base with the sides measuring 755 feet with a pyramid height of 480 feet. So now I'm able to take something that was once obscure and really that really didn't have any context, and now I'm really have added context to that. So those are just two small math examples. One of these is student-generated, student-led, student-made, and the one above is more teacher-made. So you're kind of seeing examples of both of those different things. A pretty popular site with language arts, and I'm starting to run low on time here. The last one I'll take a look at is language arts. There is a website called Google Lit Trips, where teachers have taken books that have place or location attached to them, and they've made little journeys inside of Google Earth. So the one I'll show you here as an example is from the book, the Tommy DePaulo's book, Big Anthony. So I'm going to go ahead and show that. Let me go and click on it. So now what I've done is I now have the story that includes a place, and I'm able to take a look at it. Below here is it says Google Lit Trips, which is the website you can go to, added by this individual. But the cool thing is now I have interactive data for my students. So I click on Big Anthony's house, and the teacher has put in different pieces. They don't really know where Big Anthony was born on a farm. Name 2 problems Anthony caused while helping on the farm. So what the teacher's doing is they're engaging but they're doing it in a unique way that helps them identify place. So they're at different points in the story. The teacher is encouraging students to be part of the story and to interact with it, which is encouraged with kids. So Google Lit Trips is by far one of the more significant pieces that are there. The very last thing that I would like to show you, so where do I find these files? People have made these KML files, these KMZ files, and I would love to interact with this data that's out there. The last thing I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and unshare Google Earth here real quick, and I'm going to go ahead and share my web browser with you again. For those of you who are familiar with Google, it is possible to narrow down your Google searches for file types. Just kind of keep your eyes peeled and keep your eyes open. Of these files, wherever there is data to be had, always check and see whether it's scientific data off of websites like the USGS, or in terms of language arts. More and more people are starting to see, especially teachers, are power in connecting the data that they have or the stories that they have place and starting to transfer that data over into. I'm going to go ahead and unshare this now. Stop sharing this, and I'm going to go ahead and share my web browser with you again. I'm going to go ahead and take you to Google. To find a KML file or a KMZ file, I'm going to go to the advanced search option here. I don't know how many people use the advanced search, but it's probably one of the best places you can go inside of Google. And here's a really cool place. So let's say, for example, I'm searching for a file about the country of Germany for some reason. Now below, where it says need more tools, I can choose file types. And notice that Google Earth KML and Google Earth KMZ files are both chosen as file types. So now I'm going to search, return me options for web pages that include the word Germany and are also Google Earth KMZ files. So I click advanced search, and now everything that I see below, these are all KMZ files. A canal across Germany. Now, I'm not going to pretend to say that these are all nice and neat and packaged, and that for each of these is available and awesome. I can't say that at all, but at least what it does is it gives you a good place to start, and I have run over quite a few gems throughout the years in terms of Placemarks for each of these different. So I would just encourage you to go out and to play. Again, this is really kind of only scratching the surface inside of Google Earth. Just some ideas. I hope more than anything else today, we just gave you just some ideas. We gave you the opportunity to go ahead and spark some of your imagination, to spark an idea, to spark inside of you a creative juice that says, wait a second, there's content that I have in my classroom. There's something that I have that I would like to enliven for my students, and that involves place. And I think Google Earth would be a great tool that could connect my students to that place. So one, keep your eyes open for content that's available out there. Two, if you make it, do me a favor, share it, and let people know. There are different places where you can share your stuff. For example, I have a lot of my things that I put on a wiki page, either our school wiki page or my own personal wiki page that's there for people to see. The idea is if you make it, share it. We're all part of a community. If you share your stuff, I'll share mine, so we're not all burdened with the idea of making everything. Like I said, I think more than anything else, for those of you who just started working in Google Earth, are the 29% who have never seen it before, that this was a piece where you said, wow, okay, I want to download it now, which is free off of Google's website. You go to earth.google.com. It's free. You can download it. The only caveat is you have to have a high-speed internet connection to be able to use it. So if you're part of that 29% who's never seen it before, that you said, I want to do this, and just to give it a chance to play, and if you were part of the 7% who's used it, know a lot about it, we gave you an opportunity to be a little. So at this point, I'm done. Like talking. It's a lot of talking to do. And again, thank you so much for hanging in there with the screen sharing and all those different pieces. So I really appreciate that. But again, there's a link here below to Rob's Google Earth wiki page. All of the Placemarks that I used in the presentation are there. I'll even probably go ahead and add some more. I'll continue to keep adding more content to that, which is awesome. That's why I like make things in wiki pages, because they're not So anyways, hope this was informational, and thank you very much for coming. There on a Friday afternoon, depending on what time zone you're in. You're either after school, definitely, or you're staying a little bit extra late. So thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
All right, so this is Bernard Bull. I know you probably had someone else who introduced, maybe Matt Stenson did, but I'll finish things up here. I want to thank you so much for presenting and for the great resources. I was able to sit in on the last bit and kind of peek in and listen as I was helping get ready for the next session. So thank you so much for your willingness to present. So, for those of you that have been to other sessions, you know this is the time where I give you a few links, and one of them will be a link to a drawing for an iPod Touch. This is also a way where we give you a little incentive to give us some feedback on each presentation. So I just put a link in the chat area. If you click on that, that'll take you to a place where you can give us a little feedback. That would be much appreciated. Also, we have one more session, and so instead of my giving you a link back to the blog, let me just give you a link directly to the next session in case you're interested in attending. It's actually in the first room that we ever used for the conference, and Jonathan Orr will be talking to us. Jonathan Orr will be talking to us in the last session, and I think you might find some really great interesting ideas that he has to share with you. So please do take a look at that. Also, if you want to tweet and have some follow-up tweets about the conference, 21CLE is where you can go, or there's also the hashtag of 2010 21 2010 oops, let's see, 21CLE 2010. There we go. That's what it would look like. Oh, I don't think I mentioned that Jonathan Orr's topic is building online professional development communities. And you'll notice that was actually a thread that we've addressed several times throughout the conference. We talked about professional learning networks in different ways, and Jonathan's going to take us even deeper into that topic, or even further from a different angle. So I encourage you to stick around and check that out. I'm going to go ahead and move over and get ready. It's about time to start our next and last session for the conference. So I look forward to seeing you all over there, hopefully in a couple of minutes.